Tomorrow is November 4th, 2008. Tomorrow is Election Day. Tomorrow is the first election day in which I can vote for the next United States President. This is exciting, right? It should be. But it's really not. You know why? The Electoral College. I dislike the Electoral College. You know why? Because it's outdated and it makes my vote count less than someone else's from a different state. Am I less of an American than someone from a smaller or more controversial state? I'm from the state of New York. Newsflash, the state of New York is a Democratic state. It's always a blue state. Whether you vote Republican or Democrat in New York, you pretty much know New York's going to be a blue state. We have a set number of electoral votes from New York. Granted, it is a pretty large number because we have a large population. But if you live in a state like Florida, for instance, which played a huge role in the last election, your vote technically counts more because you're in a swing state. And your state will determine which person is the next president. My state, although it does have a bunch of electoral votes, my individual vote does not count as much. Is that democratic? Any system in which each individual person in a country, each individual citizen, has a vote, and yet the popular vote for the entire country can be not the same winner as the actual winner of the election, how does that make sense? To me, any system in which someone's vote doesn't count as much as the next person's, and in which a country can vote overall for one candidate, more people in the country can vote for one candidate, and the other candidate can still win? How is that fair? How is that what a country wants? Say you live in New York, but you're a Republican. Your vote pretty much gets canceled out. Okay? Your vote doesn't really count. Or say you're a Democrat and you live somewhere in the Midwest that's a red state. Your vote pretty much gets canceled out. I think just because you live in a certain state does not mean that you have to have certain views. People say that the Electoral College preserves the power of individual states and reduces the power of the federal government. Just because you live in a certain state does not mean that you have the same views as your neighbor. It might tend to be that way, but I like to believe in individuality to a certain extent, and I don't think that just because you live in a certain state, that whole state should have one opinion. It just doesn't work that way. So yes, tomorrow I will be voting in the 2008 presidential election. Will my vote really count? You can make that decision.